CJ Stroud. Who isn't fired up when you hear that name? I know Texans fans are, that's for sure. This is Sports Guy Talking that you guys are watching and listening to. I am Dustin Tran, your host, as I am here today to talk about CJ Stroud becoming the NFL's biggest success story this season. In fact, the incredible season of CJ Stroud continued as he dominated the game against an elite Browns defense. The Texans ended up destroying the Browns by the score of 45-14, as they will now get to play against the Ravens this upcoming Saturday. Before I say anything else though, I want to present you guys with the topic question. So here it is. Can the Texans shock the world against the Ravens? Honestly, I want to see it. The Houston Texans have my favorite quarterback in the National Football League. However, I cannot do it. I cannot pick the Houston Texans to beat the Baltimore Ravens. And that's not a knock on the Houston Texans. It's just how good I think of the Baltimore Ravens. When you look at this Baltimore Ravens team, what do they have? They have what is going to be a two-time MVP winner in Lamar Jackson. They got Gus Edwards. They've got the receiving game. They've got an elite offensive line. They've got an elite defense. When you look at this Baltimore Ravens team, they are as complete as anybody in the National Football League, and they are in fact my pick to win the Super Bowl this season. That is because of the fact that they are the most complete team in all of football, and the Houston Texans are just not quite there yet. Do I think the Texans can eventually get there? Absolutely. In fact, don't be surprised if the Houston Texans win a Super Bowl within the next 5 years, because that's how high I think of CJ Stroud. I think the sky is the limit with this guy. I think CJ Stroud has easily been the NFL's biggest success story. I think CJ Stroud has even been underrated. I know a lot of people might be looking at me funny and say, oh, how could CJ Stroud be underrated when everybody says he's had a great rookie year? Well, let me tell you this. Has CJ Stroud had the greatest rookie season ever? Of course he has. He's had the greatest rookie season by a mile. You want to talk about TD-INT ratio? Check mark. You want to talk about leading the Houston Texans to the NFL playoffs in year one? Check mark. You want to talk about the fact how the Houston Texans only won 11 games in the last 3 years prior to CJ Stroud being their starting quarterback, and now all of a sudden, now they're a 10-win team in just year one of the CJ Stroud era? Check. When you look at all these check box marks, the Houston Texans have an incredibly bright future with CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud would have easily broken the rookie passing yards record by a quarterback had he managed to not get a concussion late in the season. You look at how CJ Stroud led the NFL in yards per game. Whenever a quarterback leads the league in yards per game, that tells me that he is pushing the ball downfield effectively and that he knows how to put playmakers in positions to succeed. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, CJ Stroud, he's on a great team. He's set up for success. Shut up. You guys don't know nothing. Now, do I think that the Houston Texans have done a good job of surrounding CJ Stroud with weapons? Sure. I guess you could say that they did a good job. But to say that the Houston Texans are a loaded football team and that CJ Stroud is just doing whatever the supporting cast is doing to help him out, that is a lie. CJ Stroud has elevated the Houston Texans big time. You look at how Nico Collins, he's experienced a career year with CJ Stroud at the quarterback position. You look at the fact how Tank Dell looked like he was one of the best rookie receivers in all of football. Nobody ever heard of Tank Dell before he got drafted by the Houston Texans. You look at the fact that Robert Woods has been a solid veteran for the Houston Texans. You also look at the fact that Noah Brown has experienced a career year with the Houston Texans. And when you talk about the injuries on the Houston Texans, they've had to deal with a fair number of injuries. But it doesn't matter because they just keep fighting through. And for them to dominate the way that they did against the Cleveland Browns, very impressive. I was surprised that the Houston Texans were able to beat the Cleveland Browns by 31 points. Now, am I surprised that the Houston Texans beat the Cleveland Browns? Not necessarily, but I was surprised in the manner how they did so. CJ Stroud effectively played perfect when he was playing against an elite Browns defense. Holy cow, this guy played like the second coming of Tom Brady. When I watched tape of CJ Stroud before the draft, I thought that this guy was Joe Burrow 2.0. Well, that seems to be his floor right now, because when you watch CJ Stroud play, he is way better than Joe Burrow, and that is saying something. Holy cow, this guy's the greatest rookie that the league has ever seen. This guy makes rookie Cam Newton look like just another guy. But CJ Stroud, on the other hand, as a rookie, has played like an MVP candidate. Unfortunately, he's not going to win the MVP award because of the historic season Lamar Jackson has had. But if you want to talk about CJ Stroud being a great football player, then you have to absolutely put him up there, and that you have to realize that CJ Stroud will be a future league MVP candidate. Now, as far as whether or not they match up against the Baltimore Ravens, well, I just can't see them being the Baltimore Ravens. Do I think CJ Stroud can play a great game? Absolutely. CJ Stroud has been known to torch elite defenses. Well, the Baltimore Ravens have an elite defense. However, when it comes to playoff time, when you get into the deeper rounds, you need to have a better supporting cast around you than what CJ Stroud has, because the Houston Texans can't run the football. Look, Devin Singletary is not a true running back one. If he was on most other teams, he would be an RB2. The fact that Devin Singletary is an RB1 just tells you the lack of depth that the Houston Texans have in the running back room. The Houston Texans can't run a lick with the football. They have to rely on CJ Stroud carrying his team on their back, and for CJ Stroud to constantly carry his team on the back week in and week out, I have been very impressed with that. But if the Houston Texans want to beat the Baltimore Ravens, the running game has to show up. They have to be able to play time possession. Devin Singletary has to actually play like an RB1, because if he doesn't play like an RB1, that's going to put CJ Stroud in tough positions, and we know that the Baltimore Ravens are historically awesome against rookie quarterbacks. Now, I know CJ Stroud has had a historic season for a rookie, but let's be honest here, the Baltimore Ravens are a whole different animal, and it's not like the game is at Houston, it's at Baltimore. That means the game is on the road, and if you're CJ Stroud, that is going to be in uncharted territories. Now, if CJ Stroud happened to play horrible against the Baltimore Ravens, I'm not going to hold it against him, because no rookie quarterback could come into Baltimore and beat them come playoff time. But if CJ Stroud beats the Baltimore Ravens, holy cow, we have a superstar in our hands if he isn't already a superstar, because CJ Stroud could be the Michael Jordan of the NFL. I can't believe the Carolina Panthers passed up on CJ Stroud in the 2023 NFL draft. For them to take Bryce Young over CJ Stroud is absolutely criminal, and I'm still very angry about what David Tepper did to the franchise of the Carolina Panthers, because there is no way that Bryce Young should have been taken ahead of CJ Stroud. That is like saying that Sam Bowie should be taken ahead of Michael Jordan. Holy cow, that's how bad the Carolina Panthers messed it up, because passing up on CJ Stroud is going to be like remembering passing up on Michael Jordan, because of the fact how CJ Stroud has been a transcendent player for the Houston Texans, and how he has made the Houston Texans a premier franchise in the National Football League. Now, when you talk about the Houston Texans, I'm expecting Super Bowls for years to come. I'm expecting CJ Stroud to be a league MVP candidate year in and year out. If the Houston Texans can find a way to pull off a trade for somebody like a Devontae Adams, the NFL is going to be in major trouble. It's going to be like Tom Brady to Randy Moss. I'm expecting CJ Stroud to become the most dominant quarterback in the National Football League if the Houston Texans can find a way to pair up CJ Stroud with an actual wide receiver one. No disrespect to Nico Collins, but he would be a wide receiver two on most other teams. If they can find a way to get Devontae Adams or Mike Evans or a legitimate wide receiver one, holy cow, the Houston Texans are going to be an even better franchise, and CJ Stroud is going to be an even better quarterback. Right now, he has easily been the NFL's biggest success story, and the success story is only going to get bigger as time goes on. As far as how I see the game playing out, I think it's going to be close throughout. I think CJ Stroud is going to play a solid football game. I think he's going to throw 2 touchdowns in this game, but ultimately the Baltimore Ravens have too much firepower, both on offense and defense, for the Houston Texans to truly beat, because the Houston Texans are just not good enough to compete with the Baltimore Ravens, at least on this level. Because when I watch the Baltimore Ravens play, I'm thinking, wow, this is a special team that I am watching. There is a reason why the Baltimore Ravens have held a lead in every single game this season. There's a reason why the Baltimore Ravens have not lost a lot of games. If it were not for the Ravens defense collapsing late in games, the Baltimore Ravens would essentially be undefeated right now with Lamar Jackson as their starting quarterback. That's how dominant they've been, and I don't expect that to change with Lamar Jackson at the quarterback position. I know Lamar Jackson has had struggles in the playoffs in the past, but I think Lamar Jackson is going to get it together, because this is the best team that Lamar Jackson has ever been on in his NFL career. He's got Odell Beckham to throw the football to. He's got Zay Flowers to rely on. He's got that elite defense behind him, and if he has an off day, I think the Baltimore Ravens are ultimately going to beat the Houston Texans in a dogfight. I think it's going to be a good game, but I think ultimately Lamar Jackson is going to outduel CJ Stroud. And also remember the fact that the Baltimore Ravens roster is better than the Houston Texans roster. As far as what I see the score being, I think the Houston Texans are going to score 23 points while the Baltimore Ravens score 27 points. I think it's going to be a close game throughout, but I think ultimately the Ravens are going to be the better team when you compare them to the Houston Texans. So I see the Baltimore Ravens beating the Houston Texans by the score of 27-23. I want to see the Houston Texans upset the Baltimore Ravens, but I know it's not going to happen deep down, because I know the Baltimore Ravens have a deeper roster and they have more playoff experience. But don't get discouraged, Texans fans, because your future is incredibly bright. You guys are going to be in AFC Championship game sooner rather than later, and if you guys actually build around CJ Stroud, they're going to be in the Super Bowl before you know it. So that is why the Texans will not be able to shock the world against the Ravens, as the Ravens will end up beating the Texans by the score of 27-23. However, it is clear that CJ Stroud has been the NFL's biggest success story this season, as he had a historic season for a rookie. Remember, go ahead and subscribe to Sports Guy Talking, like the video, and please comment down below if you guys do that, I may shout you guys out in my Instagram story every Monday. That'll be for the @DustinTran Instagram account. Make sure to follow me on Instagram @DustinTran and that Sports Guy Talking. Also, go follow me on Twitter @DustinTran. Again, go ahead and do those things that I just told you guys to go do. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the content that was just produced. Peace out. I hope you enjoyed that video. Want more Sports Guy Talking, the home of great sports content? Make sure you click that subscribe button to get the latest from Sports Guy Talking. Go ahead and like the video, comment down below. Check the description box on the video in order to follow my Instagram and Twitter. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the YouTube channel, Sports Guy Talking.